Welcome to Inner Authority. This podcast is for people who know that they are capable of more, not in a striving way, but in a quiet, internal knowing. It's for the people who've done a lot right, who are intelligent, who are self-aware, who are successful by most measures, but they still feel that tension inside, like something has gone slightly off track. Not because you're broken, and not because you need fixing, but because at some point you learn to lead yourself from effort instead of trust. Inner authority is about coming back from that. It's about restoring your relationship with your own knowing, your decisions, your direction, not by pushing harder, but by listening more honestly. My name is Kelly Brummer. I'm the founder of Start and Succeed and Inner Authority podcast. Each episode of this podcast is an invitation for you to slow down, to notice what's actually true for you, and to lead yourself from that place again. So if you're done outsourcing your authority and you're ready to come back into alignment with yourself, then you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome to today's episode where I'm going to be talking to you about joy and how as adults we can find more joy in our lives and why we may feel that we're lacking it. So let's jump straight in. Most adults don't actually lack joy. What they lack is permission. And in many cases, they don't even realize that they're waiting for it. And that's because when we're kids, a lot of us were told the same version or some version of the same thing. Be quiet. Calm down. Stop laughing, will you? Stop being so loud. Will you just grow up? You're just too much for me right now. Now, sometimes these comments, they were situational. Sometimes it was constant. But either way, the message landed. And here's what matters. Those moments didn't just change our behavior at that time. They trained our nervous system. They taught us when to shut down. So by the time we're adults, no one has to tell us anymore. We do it by ourselves, automatically, efficiently, convincingly. We don't say, oh, I'm just suppressing myself right now. We say, I'm being mature. I'm being professional. I don't need all of that childish behavior. But the truth is that we've learned containment so well that we confuse it with leadership and being professional. And that's where the joy gets lost. Because the nervous system doesn't separate emotions as we would like it to. You don't get to shut down chaos without dulling joy. You don't get to mute excitement without flattening being alive. You don't selectively numb. So let's talk about how this actually shows up in our adult lives. Well, firstly, it shows up as self-interruption. So just watch and notice how often you cut yourself off. Maybe you start laughing and then halfway through, you stop. Maybe you feel excited and then immediately dial it back for fear of being a little bit too loud or too much. Maybe you're animated in conversation and then suddenly you lower your voice. No one asked you to. No one corrected you. It just happens. And that is conditioning. Secondly, it happens with justification. So a lot of adults believe that joy has to earn its place in our lives. If it's not productive, it feels indulgent. If it's not appropriate, it feels irresponsible. If it doesn't serve a purpose, well, it just feels unnecessary. So what happens is joy gets postponed. You'll say things like, I'll relax after this. I'll enjoy myself once things settle down a bit. I don't have time for that right now. And that later, that really comes. Thirdly, is around seriousness as an identity. So somewhere along the way, seriousness became proof of competence and ability and professionalism. Being light became associated with being naive. Being expressive became associated with being unprofessional. And being joyful, well, that became associated with not taking things seriously. So people clamp down. They lead with restraint instead of presence and control instead of capacity. And then they wonder why everything feels flat. Now here's the shift. If you want joy and laughter in your life in a grounded way, you don't need to become playful or childish. You need to stop blocking yourself. So let's talk about what can actually help you with that. So first of all, you need to stop interrupting yourself in real time. This is the most important part because you don't need to change your personality. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need to act happier. You just need to stop cutting things off. So when a laugh starts, let it finish. When excitement shows up in your life, don't immediately neutralize it. And when you're being expressive, don't rein it in halfway. This isn't about being louder. It's about being complete. Now, most people never let an emotional response run its full course. They interrupt it, and they interrupt it out of habit. So when you can stop doing that, the nervous system starts to recalibrate. It learns, I'm allowed to experience this. This is good. Another thing that you can do is to remove the requirement for usefulness. Joy doesn't need a reason to exist. And if you're waiting for a reason, you're going to stay shut down. And this is where a lot of high functioning adults get stuck because what they do is they ask, well, what's the point? What does this actually add? Why does this matter? Now, those questions, they kill joy on contact. So the adult move here isn't about justifying joy and why it should be in your life. It's allowing it. You don't need joy to lead you somewhere. You don't need it to achieve a goal. You need it because you're alive. And that's not indulgence. That there is regulation. Another way that you can help yourself to find more joy in an adult way, not a childish way, is to practice expression without the need for explanation. And this is one that does make people uncomfortable because we automatically, some of us, me included, and I continue to work on it, feel like they have to over-explain situations. So instead of explaining, say something funny without downplaying it. Maybe smile without checking who's actually noticed. And react to a situation without qualifying it. You don't need disclaimers. You don't need to self-edit what it is that you're doing. You don't need to come out with things like, I know this sounds silly, but, okay, that constant explaining is a form of self-protection. And it teaches your body and your nervous system and your mind that expression is just too risky. Now, you're not being asked to overshare. You're being asked to stop apologizing for existing, for being alive, for breathing, for having an opinion, for doing whatever it is that you want to do in your life. Another way that you can help bring more joy into your life is to build safety through repetition. When we think about joy, joy doesn't come back because you decide it should. If we decided everything, we would all be very, very happy. We wouldn't have any problems because we'd have decided that would be the case. Joy comes back to you because your body learns that it won't be punished if it arrives. So every time you don't shame yourself, every time you don't minimize yourself, every time you don't tell yourself to calm down or cut yourself off, you're rebuilding trust, not confidence, but trust in your own inner authority. And trust is what allows expansion in your life. Now, this is slow work, and it should be, because nothing happens overnight. It's a constant process that we have to work on to continue to challenge ourselves, because we are the sum total of who we surround ourselves. We are the version of ourselves that were children. We are the version of ourselves that have gone through trauma, gone through pain, who've gone through happiness, joy, laughter. We have all of those memories. We have all of those feelings inside of us. So this is a process to go through that's going to take time. But if you can keep doing these things to help build that trust in your inner authority, it's going to help you to attract more joy and keep more joy in your life. Now, as I say, this is slow work, and it should be, because you're undoing years of conditioning. Now, just remember, when we think about adult behavior, the opposite of that, when we think about children, is childish behavior. But childlike joy is not childish behavior. Childish is uncontained. Childlike joy, well, that's integrated within us. So a regulated adult who can laugh freely, feel deeply, and stay really grounded is not regressing. They're stable, they're present, they have the ability to expand and learn and develop. Now, joy doesn't make you less serious. It makes you less constrained. And most people do not need more inspiration. We already have it. They need permission and the discipline to stop taking it away. Before you move on with your day, just notice what shifted whilst you were listening to this episode. Not what you learned, but what settled. Inner authority doesn't announce itself loudly. It feels like a quiet agreement inside of you, inside of your body and inside of your mind. If this episode met you there, stay with the podcast and go and subscribe so that you don't have to go looking for this again. It will be here when you're ready to listen. No pressure, no urgency. Just a return to yourself, one conversation at a time.